Hey there, and welcome to the She Calls Her Shots podcast. Every week, we chat through different business building topics that'll help you gain clarity around your goals, find inspiration in your journey, and also help you create a life and a business that you love. My name is Krista, and I'm a wedding and brand photographer and your go-to no-fluff business coach. In these episodes, we talk through both the tactical strategies, habits, and the mindset work that'll help you take those really big leaps. And we always focus on the real talk and the behind the scenes of what it takes to create a sustainable and a thriving business. Because let's be honest, the work isn't always glamorous, but it's always worth it. So girlfriend, let's make some moves and start calling our own shots. Well, hello there, friend, and welcome back to this episode of the She Calls Her Shots podcast. This episode today is going to be juicy because we're talking about a very interesting topic, an email. I know you're probably like, Krista, that's not that interesting, but I find it so fascinating because I feel that when you talk to people, they are either on one side or the other when it comes to email. Someone either swears by it, loves email marketing, loves building their list, loves pouring into their community, and then others don't really love it. They either don't have a list or they feel overwhelmed about how to start a list, or they focus on every other aspect of marketing instead of email list building. And so that's why I think this topic is so interesting. I've always been fascinated by it because for a long time in my business, as a photographer, I felt like I couldn't really have email marketing. I was a wedding for the past 12 years. I've been a wedding and engagement photographer, and I kind of struggled. I never put the value or importance on an email list because in my head, these couples are only getting married the one time. And because that was really the majority of my business was engagements and weddings, I really didn't put any effort into building a list, which is fine. I do know that there are a lot of photographers out there who do more than just weddings and engagements. So for example, if you are a photographer, it can be great to start an email list with your couples because as they start families and as they want holiday photos, having built up that relationship with them gives you repeat clients over and over again, which is one of the best strategies of gaining clients, right? Is getting the repeat clients. But the problem is that I didn't get to build that muscle. I didn't get to really understand how to nurture an email list on a regular basis. And it wasn't until in the last 2 years have I really started to understand A, the importance of it, and B, it is one of the best ways of marketing because you get to speak to your audience one-to-one. And it's so intimate, it's so intentional. And so I'm really excited for you to listen into this particular interview because I think Liz is one of the most energetic, fun, capable people that I've ever met. And I think I mentioned this a little bit in the episode, but email marketing is Liz's jam. And she coins herself as the Fresh Princess of email marketing. And if you're like, Krista, that sounds like a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air 90s reference, you are absolutely right. Liz loves the 90s. And if you follow her on Instagram, if you are on her email list, if you pop over to her website, you'll just see it. It's so much fun. But she is an email strategist and a keynote speaker, and she helps small businesses build online relationships. She helps take out all of the overwhelm when it comes to email marketing and to help you package up your magic and turn it into emails that people actually want to read and most importantly, that they actually want to purchase from. And so I am so excited. We're going to talk about how to draft a newsletter in less than 20 minutes. We're also going to talk through just like the basics, again, of eliminating the overwhelm and making building a list feel doable. So if you're starting from scratch, this is a great episode for you to listen into. If you've been building a list for a while, I still think Liz is going to have some nuggets that will be really helpful for you. And she also has a ton of resources on her website if this is something you want to dive into more. So all of that said, let's go ahead and dive right into our call with Liz. Hello, Liz. Welcome to the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about email.
Yeah, me too. And Liz and I were talking a little bit before I hit record, and I was mentioning how this is something that after 10 years in my business, I am finally starting to really dabble in, which I struggled with it in the beginning as a photographer, didn't really know what to do with it. And now that I'm kind of transitioning into more of the coaching space, it kind of clicks a little bit more, but not to spoil anything, but there's like tips for kind of all photographers, coaches. We're going to go through a lot of tips for how to like really simplify email marketing. So I'm really, really excited about that today. But before we dive into that, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about you, your brand. I know no one can see us right now, but like if you go to Liz's website and like even on her like camera, it's just like 90s boy band Saved by the Bell-esque. I love it. Everything about it. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got started.
Yeah, so I think my story is a little different. What up? I'm Liz Wilcox, and I actually didn't start off as a copywriter or in the marketing space. I actually started off as an RV travel blogger. So I wanted to hit the road with my family, but I probably, like you, are thinking right now, like, how would you make money remotely, right? So I didn't know. I started Googling it. And of course, everybody and their mother told me to start a blog. So that's what I did. And then, I'd listen to podcasts like this, go to webinars, and all those gurus were saying, you got to start your email list. If I had one regret, it's that, it took me 10 years to get email right. And so Mama didn't raise no fool. I said, I'm going directly to this email list. I'm going to start it right away. And so I did. And about 7 months later, I launched my first digital product. And I'm going to say this, and you're going to laugh, but I hope it inspires you that whatever it is you're trying to do, whether you are a photographer and you're just trying to book more clients with email, or you're some kind of coach trying to get some services going, or maybe you even, want to dabble in digital products yourself. My first digital product, I'm going to tell you, in the first 90 days from an email list of about 300 people, made over $7,000 and got picked up by an international sponsor. So that's the preface. What was the product? It was a book about poop, okay? I was an RV travel blogger. And so if you've ever RV'd or heard about camping, of course, there are tanks underneath your rig where the sewage goes, right? So my book was called Tales from the Black Tank. That's where your sewage goes. A collection of hilariously crappy RV stories. So why the heck am I even, I'm telling you this in the first 5 minutes of the show. What the heck, Liz? I'm telling you this to let you know, like, your service, whatever you're trying to provide, whether it's photos, coaching, whatever, it's way better than my idea. And I know if you get email marketing right, like, you're going to make way more money than I could ever dream of with that little book. So strap in. That's how I got started. Long story short, I ended up creating a digital course that had 100% conversion rate from the wait list. And then I started telling people about that, and they said, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? So I sold the RV blog and went all in on helping you untangle the knot that is email marketing. And now here I am talking to Krista.
Yeah, I love that so much. I love your story, and I love the way that you approach this, because I know for me, for many, many years, when I would like hear about like newsletters or email marketing, there was this pause that came with it. It was like, oh, email marketing. And then it was like, we got really serious. And then it's like, oh, I need to create the funnel and my lead magnet and all. And it was like this really heavy thing that like kind of enveloped me. And I love your story because it's just like, it doesn't have to be hard. Like, here's what it is. Like, it's so simple.
Yeah, I thank you. And so for me, I do know that, like, you probably maybe even clicked on listening to this episode sort of reluctantly, like, oh, I know I love Krista, so I'm going to listen to this. I know I should be doing email, but it's like eye roll, just another thing that keeps getting pushed down because it's so hard. But at the end of the day, you and I are in business and we need to make money. And if I invite you to shift your mindset from, this is just another thing, somebody is telling me to do that I don't have time for, to like email marketing, list building, sending newsletters. those are money-making activities. And if you can do them right, which part of doing them right is having a little bit of fun, you can make money. And yeah, I don't do anything that's fun. If you can't tell by my voice, if you haven't looked up lizwilcox.com yet, I don't do anything that's not fun. I want you to have fun with this. I really mean it when I say I want to untangle the knot for you, because I also don't do anything that's not simple. I cannot do complicated. My life is complicated. My business cannot be complicated. So I promise we're gonna break it down into some simple steps today.
Oh, I'm so excited about that. And yeah, I'd love to just go ahead and dive right in. So kind of thinking about, because obviously when you think of the first steps of building an email list, I'm going to go a little off script for a second of kind of what we're chatting about, only to just talk about like even getting people on your email list. Like I'd love to just like chat about that for a second, because I think that that's kind of the first step, and that's something that can really be daunting to people. And it's like, oh, I have to create this like freebie, or like, oh, I have to create this like great lead magnet, or all of this stuff. And I've just started dabbling in like, oh, actually, what if I just have like a weekly email and I just like talk about it in a really fun way and I invite people to it? Like, but again, I was overcomplicating it into this thing that had to be done a certain way. So I'd love to just like chat about that and kind of your thoughts around like that first step of like, okay, how to actually get people onto your list, kind of making that simple.
Yeah, so Krista is exactly right. Just start off with, hey, I'm going to be sending this email out about XYZ. Like, are you in or out? Those are your early adopters or your diehards. Those are the people, oh my gosh, I love Krista. Of course, I'm getting on her list. I want to hear more from her. So yes, that list is not going to be huge, but in order to keep it simple, I do recommend just doing just that. So I built 3 email lists and I did them all the exact same way. I got on Facebook. I said, hey, this is what I'm into. I'm really excited about it. Right? People are going to match your energy. So if you're really excited, like, oh my gosh, I'm starting this list. I'm going to share my tips on XYZ. I've got my coaching practice. I'm taking more clients this wedding season, whatever, like get on the list or share this list. People are going to match that energy. They're going to get on if it's applicable to them. They're going to send it over to their buddy, John, who they know, their fiance is planning the wedding, whatever. Right? So just know that with everything, like people are going to match your energy. So just bring that energy. Just remember, this is a money-making activity and I can be myself and have fun. And hopefully, that's your permission slip. I'm signing it. You can't see me right now. I'm signing it, pen in hand, handing it over to you. Go ahead, pick that up and just have fun with it. Now, as far as a freebie goes, if you get to that point, you've put out, some feelers for, hey, get on my list for XYZ. You can create a freebie. And all I do is I think of it like this. Like if somebody was graduating from Liz Wilcox University, they're walking across the stage. You can't see it, but Krista can. I've got a prop here. I have the degree in my hand. I'm handing you your degree. What is your degree in? Well, Liz Wilcox University, it's make money with email, right? Like you are now, a bachelor of making money with email. So think about what you want for your specific client. If you're a wedding photographer, you want them to have this, I don't know, I've got a giant photo behind me, like printed photo. So I'm thinking maybe, your thing is that they'll hang your photo for 25 years, for the next 25 years, or, they get buried with it. I don't know, right? Whatever your vision is for your client. And if, you're a coach, what is your vision for your client? That is the degree. And then take it all the way back to the first day of class. What do they need? That is your freebie. So for me, I make money with email is my big vision. That's my, university degree, so to speak. What do they need on the first day? Oh, well, you need a welcome sequence. That's the first step that I want you to get started with email, right? So take it all the way back. What is it that they need for that big vision? What's the first thing, right? Does that make sense, Krista?
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. And I love that we're talking about like graduating to like a freebie and a lead magnet and keeping it simple, because I think that's one thing that holds back a lot of people is this having to make a decision over like what is going to be the best freebie and what's going to be the thing. And then time and time again, something that I've seen that I even did myself was great. Now we have this freebie and then we never talk about it. So like it's on our website, it's like a pop up, but we're not telling anybody, we're not talking about it. Like we're not like really that excited about it. And I love the idea that you have built email lists off of, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I'm going to be sending out, because they're excited about you, not just some like random download that they're going to get and then either not implement or not use or forget that they even have. And it just like, I feel like sets that tone for like, oh yeah, like I really love this topic. I'm excited to learn from you and like hear what you have to say. But I feel like it brings a different energy, because if you get 2 people that sign up that are just excited about you versus 10 people who sign up because they want this one freebie you have, like I would personally be more excited that 2 people just wanted to like hear from me on a regular basis, and I would be thrilled to be able to have that.
Yeah, I love what Krista said. I actually have a small list building training, and one of the slides says like put it, meaning the freebie, put it and yourself out there in fun ways. You've got to put yourself behind the freebie. Like, and that's one of the beautiful things about today's market and today's economy, are these, let's just say like personal brands, right? You can be yourself. You can have personality. People, especially with coaching and photography and, where you're a service provider, where you're really, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like you're in this sort of intimate setting with this person, whether, you're coaching them through something that they wouldn't normally talk to people about, or like you're going to be there on their wedding day or taking their infant photography, things like that. Like that's a really intimate setting. And so people are going to go with the person that they feel most comfortable with. And here's maybe the epiphany of like why you need email, right? Like, email marketing allows you this intimate channel of like, hey, I'm coming into your inbox. This is consent based, right? You opted into my email list. You not only want to hear, my tips on XYZ or when I'm available, you want to get to know me a little bit more too. So when you take that freebie, or even just, hey, this is my email list where I share XYZ, and you insert a little bit of you in there as well, you're really going to see those, the way I had that 100% conversion rate. Like, in case you don't know, conversion rates are about 1 to 3%. It's because I was able to really nurture that list for a time and really inject Liz Wilcox into that brand, that people are like, okay, I know I need to learn this and I want to learn it from Liz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that so much. And I'm excited to kind of dive into, okay, let's say you have a couple of people on your list now. Let's get rid of the overwhelm of like, oh, now I have to write to them. And I think this is something, obviously, again, with your branding, I feel like everything is just so personal. It's so connected. Hey there, just interrupting briefly to mention that if you're really enjoying this episode, you'll probably also love being on my email list. Each week, I send out tips and resources and inspiration to make building your business feel more fun. We dive deeper into the podcast episodes, we share relatable and sometimes embarrassing stories about the real life behind the scenes of being a business owner. And I love to share tips and resources to help make the journey feel a little easier and a little bit more enjoyable. So head on over to KristaMarieLynch.com and enter in your info to join. I'd love to hear tips you have for people being able to add this into their week without feeling overwhelmed by it.
Yeah. So I'm going to back it up a little bit, and everything that I teach and everything, like Krista said, if you're on my email list, it feels personal. I just want to say, if that feels overwhelming to you, I want to share what I'm actually doing, and break it down. Like you probably wouldn't be able to tell, but I actually am a very private person. There are lots of things I don't talk about with my email list, but that doesn't mean I'm not good at injecting personality, right? And also, you don't have to be like a Liz Wilcox extrovert, 90s loving, fresh princess to inject personality. Like, find those pieces of yourself that you like to portray and people like about you, and inject those into the emails. Because here's what we're trying to do. This is called the email staircase. And this is the framework for every email that I write, all the emails that I write for my membership, and anything else. And this is the way I want you to try to do this too. So it's called the email staircase. So first you've got a follower, right? You get on a podcast, somebody finds you on social media, whatever, right? Get them on your list, and then you turn them into a friend. And then when you have a list full of friends, you can turn them into customers. The same way I said, hey, are you interested in this course? And, when I finally had it for sale, everybody that said yes actually paid, right? That's because there's a list full of friends, and then they turn into customers, right? So to Krista's question about what the heck, what am I actually putting in the emails? How do I turn these people into friends? There's only 3 things you need. Number 1, you need to show that you're invested. This is especially important for service providers. People need to know that you are invested in your craft before they're going to invest into you, right? Sometimes we think, oh, well, the pictures or the testimonials speak for themselves. No, we need to be a little bit more direct, right? Telling people how, you took your coaching certification, telling people you listen to this podcast to write better emails, telling people about the new lens you purchased, or, you hired a business coach. You got a new car so you could travel farther to gigs, whatever it is. It can be very simple, or it can be a larger thing. Just showing people that you are invested. And if you think your people don't care, if you're like, okay, but nobody actually cares about that, I'm telling you that they do. Remember, they will not invest if they don't believe you are invested back into your craft and back into them. Even when I was talking to my RV travel folks, those were men in their 60s. If you can't tell by my voice, I'm not a man in my 60s, but I wanted to show them that I was invested in them, right? And so I was sharing things like, oh my gosh, I just bought a $2,000 mastermind. They had no idea what that was, but they were like, holy crap, this lady is really spending money trying to build this thing. And I know that's one of the reasons why they were not afraid to purchase something from me, because they knew I was really invested in the business. So this can work no matter who you are listening right now. So that's the first thing, invest. Number 2, share in a relatable way. Spoiler alert, other people want to relate to other people. So this is actually the simplest thing you can do. Now, this isn't saying, and I'm going to get burned on the email marketing stake one day. I know it. I'm not telling you to tell stories. Don't do that. It's a newsletter, not a novel. If you have a great story, then share it. But, the majority of the time we're just sitting here, editing photos, trying to wrap up our certification. We don't really have a big story to tell. So instead, just share a personal update, something, 2 to 3 sentences, something that has happened to you since the last time you emailed. Now, chances are, no matter what it is that has happened to you, in those 2 to 3 sentences, you are going to be sharing in a relatable way. Just like Krista said, oh, she's 90s, she's got colors, whatever. Even if you hate the 90s, your mind immediately went there. She didn't have to tell you a story about the 90s for your mind to go there. You want to relate to me, so you started thinking of moments, whether you thought of the Rugrats, the Spice Girls, your mom's couch, how your grandma smelled, whatever that was, your mind was immediately trying to relate to that time. Even if you weren't born in the 90s, you're thinking of some TikTok guy right now that won't stop talking about it, right? Your mind is looking for a way to relate. So, and you can do that very simply with, just a 2 to 3 sentence. Hey, I just recorded a podcast, or I just got done editing, or I just got done walking my dog and now I'm writing you. Even if I don't have a dog, chances are I've seen somebody on a dog walk before. I'm related, right? So, and the third thing, so we've got invest, we've got share in a relatable way. And the third thing is just stay top of mind. Now, I know this is the part where you want to turn off and you're like, oh, I hate emailing. I don't want to email once a week. It's too hard. So I'm also not going to tell you to tell stories, and I'm not going to tell you to email once a week. Yes, I would like for you to email once a week. That is the general rule of thumb. But if that feels too hard for you, remember, we're trying to untangle this knot. So just allow yourself to email when you can. I do invite you to challenge yourself to, okay, I'm going to get my butt in the chair on the 13th of every single month, and I'm going to send out some sort of newsletter, right? Once you build up that muscle, okay, now it's going to be the 13th and the 23rd. Now it's going to be every Tuesday, right? You can build up that muscle. Give yourself permission to be a beginner. Give yourself permission to not have the habit yet. Remember, I said I want to make this simple for you. So just give yourself permission to email when you can. Get out your Google Calendar, every 13th of the month, newsletter, even on the 12th, write a reminder that that's going to go off tomorrow. That way you're not shocked and you don't lose time on it, right? But nobody gets six-pack abs just because they decide to get six-pack abs, right? Start small, do the repetitions. And then from there you can decide what it means to stay top of mind. Is it once a month? Is it once a week? What do my people need? And then go from there.
Yeah, I love all of these so much. And I think one of the things that, again, like thinking back to a lot of my hesitation around it was, I was looking at some of the emails that I was getting. And of course, they were from people who had, huge businesses who were usually going through some sort of launch. And so I was getting their entire launch sequence filled with all of this stuff. And then when I would sit down to write my emails, I would look at that and think, oh, well, how am I going to match that? How am I going to be able to do that? And it all of a sudden became this daunting thing. And I think if you're listening right now and you're if those are the only emails that you are receiving are launch sequence, selling something, kind of these big things, if that feels really overwhelming, get a part of an email list that's not like that. Someone who's literally Liz obviously has this. She also has templates and a membership you can sign up with all of this information, but get yourself on a list that is not going to just be some big email person who's telling you to do all this stuff, because the emails I can tell you that they're sending you are going to make you stand in your tracks and I don't know what I'm doing. And so I love this because it's it really is bringing it back to the basics of show that you're invested, connect authentically, which is going to happen anyway if you're sitting down to write an email, and then just just show up, get used to emailing people. I think that muscle in itself is really hard to build because we feel like nobody cares, or all these stories that we tell ourselves in our head. But it's when you can just sit down to do it, it becomes so much easier. And I also think it's obviously not, it's similar, but even with the podcast, I remember those same thoughts of no one's going to listen to this. Who even cares? No one wants to be a part of this. And then you get that that message about an episode, or you get that connection of someone being I relate to this so much. And I feel it's the same thing with email. You start putting yourself out there a little bit, building those connections. And then that little voice of nobody cares starts to kind of drown itself out a little bit, because you're oh, actually people do care. And they do enjoy hearing from me.
Yeah, I love that Krista just said all that, because here's the thing, and here's something that I share in every single presentation. I don't care if it's people that it's the same audience as the last one. I always have a slide that has pictures of me with actual subscribers. So, I think there's a dozen of them. And here's the thing, we talked about list building, right? And how to get people on your email list. We use the word people because those email addresses are actual people. I use the word friend because I actually want you to make real connections. One of the reasons I fell in love with email marketing is because I can make real connections. I never in my wildest dreams would have ever written a book called Tales from the Black Tank about RV sewage if it wasn't for my subscribers. The story of that goes, I was listening to podcasts like this. I was, really taking the advice seriously. And I'm okay, but I don't know what product I should create. I don't know anything about RVing. I just bought an RV. I've never even turned the engine on. And so I asked my subscribers, I said, hey, why do you follow me? I'm kind of all over the place. One day I'm talking about this. The next day I'm talking about that. And they said, well, Liz, you can tell a really good story and you're pretty funny. Those were the things that I heard over and over. So what did I create? A collection of funny stories. I never would have come up with that idea on my own. And that's why email marketing is so effective. You have that direct channel, you're making real connections, and they can really tell you what they want. So if you have a package that isn't selling, you can break it down piece by piece, and you can directly ask your people like, oh my gosh, do you love this? When I do X, or like, does that feel unnecessary? Right. And you can slowly get to have these conversations. And that, I think, above social media or any other type of marketing platform there is, email marketing is just this intimate channel where you can become the bright spot in someone's day. Think about when you are scrolling on your Gmail or whatever, like you're looking for something to click on. You're looking for that. Oh, this is for me. The same way in your mailbox. You're like, oh, that's trash. That's trash. That's a bill. Oh my gosh, Krista sent me something. Wow. We do the exact same in our inbox. That's trash. I'll open that later. Oh my gosh, Liz sent me something. I wonder what it can be. So if you can become that, just remember, investing, sharing in a relatable way, stay top of mind, you're going to create those friendships, those real connections, and you're going to make real sales compared to those blasts of those giant businesses where you're like, this is too much. I don't have time to read this. No wonder the average conversion rate is 1% to 3% because they are only connecting to 1% to 3% of their audience. I want more for you. I want more for your people. So, if you really follow that email staircase and really look at your people as, I'm just emailing because I want to connect with one more person today, eventually brick by brick, you're going to build something super amazing.
I love that. And just like take all of the pressure off. Like take all of the pressure off of needing to have a certain amount of people in the beginning, of needing to have something to sell or needing to have something to make money. That's, I think, one shift in my business lately has been, for so long, I only spent time and energy on things that I felt would like be worth it. Like, oh, they'll make me money, or oh, they'll bring me this, or oh, it'll like bring in X amount of clients. And I was so focused on that I was constantly chasing after all this stuff. And I recently was kind of like, what if I just did things because it felt really fun and I really enjoyed it? And like I know that by doing it and showing up, it could eventually lead to all of these things that I want, but I'm not going to focus on that right now. Like I'm just going to focus on the fact that I enjoy it and it's fun and it's a good time. And you kind of started off with that of like, let this be fun. Like let this be something that you get comfortable with, and like just creating connections and just take off all that pressure, like, and just see where it goes.
Yeah, I love that so much, Krista. And maybe this is a good way to wrap things up because we're talking about untangling this email knot, right? And in my business, I don't know about you, but in my personal life, I'm really busy. I have a lot of things to do and I have a lot of responsibilities. And when I first started email marketing, I was living in 200 square feet. I didn't even have internet. I had to travel to go work on my business. Like I had to steal internet from libraries, laundromats, shout out to Lowe's parking lot. And so I didn't have a lot of time. And so anything that, felt complicated, I had to come up with a way to make it simple. So I always ask myself two questions, and I invite you to write these down, stick them in the back of your head, whatever. And this has helped me with email, and this has helped me with writing emails consistently, and really anything in my business that I know I need to do. Like, it's like, oh yes, I know this is a money-making activity, but how can I like take the pressure off? Number one, I ask myself two questions. So number one, what would this look like if it was easy? Now, sometimes the answer might be like, oh, I need to pay somebody and we don't have that money. So I have a follow-up question, because sometimes that answer just isn't possible. The follow-up question is, what would this look like if it was fun? And remember, with our email list, we're trying to make those individual connections, trying to make those individual friendships. So remember, just keep it easy, keep it fun, and I promise you're going to see some movement.
I love that. I love that so much. It's such a beautiful way of wrapping everything up and keeping everything simple. And switching gears, I love to always just kind of ask these questions because I love to get to hear perspectives from other business owners. What, aside from email marketing and having that obviously be like a huge game changer for your business and its growth, are there any other things that you feel like, you know, whether they were certain strategies or, you know, non-tangible things, like values or like things that you started to live by that you feel like were big, like aha moments or like really transformational things, in kind of just like how you were able to show up in your business?
So this is a story, and it's not mine, but it's one that I keep in my head every day in my personal life and especially in my business, especially when I'm feeling overwhelmed, like there's no way I can do the things that I want to do. There's a story that Will Smith shares on how he was able to become, you know, the highest paid, like biggest superstar actor in the world at the height of his career. And he talks about when he was a child, his dad owned a building and he tore down one of the walls and he told his brother and Will, you know, we're going to rebuild this wall. We have to rebuild it. It's falling down. It needs to be redone. And for days they work on it. And, you know, Will being a child, Dad, this is we're never going to build a wall. This is an impossible task. And his dad turns around and he grabs a brick. I'm going to grab my salt shaker here. And he grabs the brick and he says, son, we are not building a wall. You don't build a wall. All you do is lay one brick as perfectly as a brick can be laid. And soon you will have a wall. And that's kind of the philosophy that I have on any goal that I set, anything, especially in my business. Like, I'm not trying to build an email list, right? What's my first brick? The freebie, or, you know, putting out that Facebook post or whatever, right? Figuring out what email service provider, you know, I'm going to do that today. That's my brick. I'm not building a list. I'm not even, you know, building a list that makes money, right? I'm just picking my email service provider today. And when you look at your life, your tasks, your business as bricks, right? I'm just going to lay that one brick as perfectly as a brick can be laid. Soon, I really believe you will have a wall.
I love that so much. It's that mindset shift that I feel like can be one of the biggest transformations, because you stop thinking about your business as a collection of various things, and it's just really intentional about like how you're showing up today. And if you can start to make that shift today, that's going to be one of the biggest, greatest gifts that I think you could ever give yourself as a business owner, but also just as like a human.
Yes, you can't see me right now, but I'm doing the big amen at church head nod, like, yes, Krista, preach it. So true, yes. So true.
Well, and the last question I have that I always love to ask is that, have there any, you know, along your journey, have there been any like books or resources, things that you've listened to, watched? It could just be inspirational. It could be actual like business, like strategy, tactical things. But are there any books or resources or anything that you love to recommend to other people?
As far as a book, the first business book I read was called Real Artists Don't Starve. And it's by a guy named Jeff Goins. Goins like coins, like money, Goins. Mm-hmm. And it's all about how you can make money in this digital age, right? Like there's no, like the starving artist is gone. You know, we're living in this content creation mode. And so I really recommend that, especially if you have, you know, that kind of starving artist, like, oh, I'm afraid to charge for this, da, da, da. And the whole theme throughout the book is like, I believe it's Michelangelo. He's like, Michelangelo died a very rich man. Like the starving artist, you know, should not exist. Like that's a romantic thing. Real artists actually make a crap ton of money, and so should you, especially given this digital age. And here's how to do it. That was the first book I read. It really shifted my mindset about some things. And gave me some tactical tips as well.
I love that. And I'll link that below. I have actually not heard of that, so I'm excited to dive into that. And I'll link that below. But Liz, this was just absolutely wonderful. Everything about everything about you, everything about your message, like is just so amazing. So let us know, where can we find you? How can we connect with you? Like, where can we learn more? Share all of that.
Oh, Krista, I thought you'd never ask. Of course, I'm an email marketer and I want to build my list. So hopefully this is inspirational to you too. So I want you to go to lizwilcox.com. In the top right-hand corner, you cannot miss it, is a hot pink button. It says free email swipes. You're going to get everything we talked about today. You're actually going to see in action. So you're going to get an entire welcome sequence written, already written for you. You can take and make it your own. It is designed to help set you up for success so you can turn those followers into friends really quickly, and even customers too. You're going to see what I mean with that hot pink button. You're also going to get 3 newsletter examples. I know we talked a lot about what to put in there. Now I'm going to show you in action. You're going to get one to help you get clicks. You're going to get one to help you get replies, and you're going to get one that shows you how to sell directly in a newsletter. And on top of that, because I know writing from scratch sucks, newsletters are hard, you're also going to get 52 subject lines completely for free. So you never have to come up with your own idea for a newsletter. Again, that's all free. lizwilcox.com, top right hand, pink button. You can't miss it. I can't wait to see what you do with email marketing.
I love it. And I'll link that below. And definitely, go on our site. You'll immediately feel the brand presence as soon as you hop on. So Liz, thank you so much. This was just such a joy to have you on.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to see what everybody does with email.
One last thing before you go. I'd absolutely love it if you left a review on Apple Podcasts. Or if you've already left a review, I'd love for you to share this episode with your business bestie. I love getting to shout out my listeners on the show, and the more listeners that we have, the more that I can help others create a thriving and sustainable business too. Thank you so much again for being a part of this community, and I can't wait to hear your takeaways from today's episode.